Hello human! Welcome to the 10th installment of our series, 30 incredible but true facts and one fake. As you already know, this is an educational game where you have to figure out which fact is false. So, try not to ask ChatGPT. In the previous episode, some of our beloved subscribers, such as at Temoknator-T132 and at Alxelasex9642, suggested that the false fact was KFC's secret, number 26. Others, like at the Critkin, one of our previous winners, suggested it was number 23, about the art book of the video game Expedition 33, but no, sorry about that. Don't get discouraged. Better luck next time. The false fact was number 20. And these were some of the people who got it right. Congratulations. Here's a reminder. At the beginning of 2024, the brand Fisher-Price had to pull its famous toy DJ Bouncin' Beats from the market. And it wasn't because the robot was dangerous for babies, but because of the controversial way thousands of adults used it online. What was supposed to be an innocent display of colors and numbers ended up becoming the perfect tool for trolling. Thanks to its recording feature, social media was flooded with videos in which the toy repeated rude phrases, insults, and completely inappropriate sounds. Faced with the digital chaos and complaints from confused parents, several stores decided the joke had gone too far, permanently removing the toy from their shelves. Here's an example of how it was used. Fake. Was the poor toy really cancelled? The short answer is no. Even though the internet was flooded with videos of this robot saying outrageous things, Fisher-Price never pulled it from the market. It's still available in stores. What did happen is that some retailers removed the display units because pranksters kept recording insults that would play whenever a child walked by. So no, the toy isn't the problem. The problem is that the internet has no filter.
Tenemos que tener cuidado con lo que les regalamos a nuestros hijos. A la verdad que los juguetes han revolucionado el mundo. Mira lo que se atreve a decir esta muñeca.
Let's move on to the facts of this episode. Let's go. Would you pay to avoid ending up with a perforated backside? This is Pay and Sit, the bench that charges you rent for a seat. It was created in 2008 by German artist Fabian Brunzing. Its metal spikes only retract if you insert a coin, but when your time runs out, the spikes rise again to reclaim their space. Although it looks like a piece of municipal torture, it's actually a satirical artwork meant to criticize hostile design in cities like London or New York, where benches are built to prevent people from sleeping on them, a sharp protest against the privatization of rest. Can you imagine waking up one day and being literally a real-life Smurf? This is what happened to Paul Carrasson, the man who turned blue because of a homemade remedy. Paul began drinking colloidal silver and rubbing it on his face to cure dermatitis, without knowing that silver accumulates in the skin and reacts with sunlight. Boom! He turned a permanent grayish blue due to a condition called argyria. He became famous worldwide as Papa Smurf, reminding us that at-home medical experiments can end with very colorful and irreversible results. Do you think you've had a rough day? Imagine being the doctor who has to shout, "Evacuate the hospital! The patient has a bomb in his rectum." In January 2026, a 24-year-old man arrived at the emergency room in Toulouse with a 20-centimeter World War I artillery shell stuck inside him.
May God have mercy on us all.
The hospital went into panic, patients were evacuated, and the bomb squad was called in before entering the operating room. Fortunately, the projectile was deactivated, and they were able to remove it successfully. In the end, the man survived, but now the police are investigating him for illegal possession of weapons of war. Did you know that the biggest secret in anime might be at the bottom of the ocean? On March 3rd, 2026, Eiichiro Oda, creator of One Piece, decided to bring his story into the real world. He wrote the secret of One Piece on a piece of paper, tore it in two, and placed one half inside an armored capsule that he launched into the sea. The reason? To celebrate the 600 million copies of the manga sold, and to turn his legendary treasure into something real in our world. The exact location is a mystery, but thousands of fans have already analyzed clues, and many believe the capsule is in Suruga Bay, at a depth of around 651 meters. Meanwhile, Oda keeps the other half of the message to verify the discovery when someone finds it, and this has unleashed something incredible, a real-life treasure hunt. Fans with boats, drones, and submarines are scanning the area. Some want to be the first to uncover the secret, and others are trying to destroy the capsule to prevent the manga's ending from leaking too soon. Because yes, the great age of piracy has already begun. Did you know that Iran humiliated US and Israeli intelligence with a bit of paint? In February 2023, it was revealed that at the Eagle 44 Air Base, they painted exact silhouettes of F-14 Tomcat fighter jets directly onto the asphalt. The goal was to deceive spy satellites and make them waste millions on missiles targeting fake objectives, while the real aircraft were hidden underground. Although the trick was eventually detected, the message was clear. They managed to make the most advanced surveillance technology in the world question whether it was seeing a weapon of war or just simple graffiti, an epic troll of psychological warfare.
Destroy that balloon.
Hey! Tango 14, we're being fired at. I'm getting an exact ID on the bogey now. Iraqis again, launching Sidewinder missile. Missed him. Launching second Sidewinder missile.
Einstein used to say that the universe and human stupidity are infinite, and that he wasn't so sure about the universe. Anatoly Bugorsky is scientific proof that he was right. In 1978, this Soviet scientist decided it was a good idea to stick his head into an active particle accelerator to check a malfunction. Boom! A beam of protons traveling at the speed of light passed straight through his skull from side to side. Anatoly said he saw a flash brighter than 1,000 suns, but felt no pain. He received such an extreme dose of radiation that doctors prepared his funeral that very night. The result? Not only did he survive, but he became a real-life Two-Face. One half of his face was left paralyzed and stopped aging, while the other half kept wrinkling over the years. He lost his hearing, but he finished his PhD and is still alive to remind us that if you see a giant laser beam, it's probably best not to put your face in it.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Oops. Okay, just a little more on the other side then. Oh, come on! Oh, geez.
Do you think you need years of study to become a DJ? These pigeons just need to be hungry. The artist Amede has gone viral in 2026 for turning street birds into the most famous techno producers on Instagram. Using contact sensors and a computer, Amede transforms every peck from the pigeons into a synthesizer hit or a drum beat in real time. Basically, while the pigeons are having breakfast, they're unknowingly composing an electronic music hit. The result is so rhythmic that many joke these birds have more talent than several famous DJs.
Pero es una campaña publicitaria para una camioneta. Eso como...
Steve, yo estoy a cargo de esta disquera y mi música es la mejor.
In January 2018, a thief stole the most expensive bottle of vodka in the world from the Cafe 33 bar in Denmark. Russian businessman Leonard Yankelovich had entrusted it to the owner, but the thief decided it was a good idea to take it and drink it all. The funniest part is that the genius thought the alcohol itself was worth $1.3 million. 3 days later, the police found the empty piece at a construction site. The thief didn't realize the real treasure was the bottle itself, made of 3 kilos of gold, silver, and diamonds. He ended up with the most expensive hangover in history, and the owner only had to refill it with cheap vodka to make it look the same, a toast to absent-mindedness. Did you know that a 90s music video helped save the lives of dozens of children? Originally, the band Soul Asylum recorded Runaway Train with actors to tell a story about runaway teens, but they decided to take the message to the next level. They replaced the actors with real photos of missing children. What started as an artistic concept turned into the largest search network in history. The impact on MTV was so massive that local versions were created for each country, featuring photos of children from that region. Thanks to this, 26 of those children were found, including Elizabeth Wiles, who recognized herself on television and called her mother. They achieved what the police couldn't in years, using only the power of rock. Do you think your gym routine is tough? In the 1940s, babies had to earn their bottle by lifting weights. The baby gym became a trend, a metal frame with resistance paddles that was installed directly over the crib. The reason behind the invention was an obsession with physical efficiency. The marketing of the time promoted it as the ultimate scientific tool to build strong legs and prepare future athletes or soldiers from infancy. The baby, lying on their back, had to kick against the tension of springs to supposedly prevent deformities. Fortunately, the invention disappeared when doctors discovered that forcing the soft bones and joints of a newborn in that way was madness that caused permanent damage. Being born and having a leg machine as your first gift was probably the most extreme training in history. Did you know that before smart chips, US missiles were guided by pigeons? During World War II, psychologist Frederick Skinner created Project Pigeon, a system in which 3 birds piloted a bomb from inside. Inside the nose of the missile, the pigeons saw a screen with the target and were trained to peck at it continuously. Their pecks moved the controls and corrected the trajectory with astonishing precision, outperforming any computer in 1944. Although the tests were a complete success, the military cancelled the project because the generals couldn't accept that the fate of the war depended on 3 grain-hungry birds. A high-tech weapon with a pigeon brain. If you thought World War III would be fought over oil or territory, think again. The real battle of this century is over a meat-filled sandwich. Germany and Turkey are at war over the doner kebab. In April 2024, Turkey launched a legal offensive before the European Union to claim ownership of the recipe, demanding rules worthy of a spy movie, from the exact age of the cow to the knife measuring 55 centimeters. But Germany, which makes 7 billion euros selling kebabs with garlic sauce and salad, something Turks consider almost a sin, didn't back down. The conflict is so absurd that the German president traveled to Turkey with a 60-kilo meat skewer on his official plane to defend his grilling sovereignty. If Turkey wins, your favorite lunch might change its name or cost twice as much. A diplomatic dispute where the only possible piece is served with lots of sauce and fries.
Y recuerda, si comes durum, cagas blandum. Hasta la próxima.
Do you think you're unlucky because you lose your lunch money or step on dog poop? Then you haven't met Roy Sullivan, who can show you what real bad luck looks like. This park ranger was a human lightning rod. Between 1942 and 1977, he was struck by lightning 7 times, and although he survived, he was left completely battered. The lightning strikes ripped off his toenails, burned his shoulders, and set his hair on fire so many times that he carried a bucket of water in his truck in case his head started smoking. His bad luck was so contagious that whenever the sky turned cloudy, even his friends would run away from him to avoid being collateral damage. With odds of 1 in 100 quintillion, Roy earned one of the most painful Guinness World Records ever. He's the only man who can say the sky has him on its blacklist.
Did I ever tell you I was struck by lightning 7 times? Once when I was in the field just tending to my cows.
Are you tired of buying a burger that looks like a skyscraper in the ad, but in real life looks like it's been sat on? Well, in Japan, that's illegal. Thanks to the Act Against Unjustifiable Premiums and Misleading Representations, companies are prohibited from exaggerating the quality or size of what they sell. If what you receive doesn't match the packaging, the Fair Trade Commission can hit them with massive fines. That's why, if you buy a box of chocolates or cookies, the real product matches the image on the box, millimeter by millimeter. You can even place the cookie on top of the picture, and it fits perfectly. In Japan, misleading advertising isn't a marketing trick. It's a direct invitation to a lawsuit. Do you think having a personalized license plate is a good idea? Well, for Katie Eunice, her love for The Simpsons turned out to be very expensive. As a tribute to the moment when Bart discovers that the most popular name at the Itchy and Scratchy amusement park is Bort and not his own, Katie legally purchased that plate for her car in Massachusetts. What she didn't expect was total chaos. Since thousands of fans buy Bort novelty plates on Amazon and stick them on their cars, toll cameras pick them up, and when they search for the one officially registered owner, they send all the fines and charges to her. Katie has received a mountain of violations from cities she has never even visited, turning an epic meme into a nightmare worth thousands of dollars.
We need more Bort license plates in the gift shop. I repeat, we are sold out of Bort license plates.
Do you think driving a 15-ton truck is a tough job? For this hamster named Charlie, it was a walk in the park. In September 2013, the brand Volvo decided to demonstrate how smooth its new power steering was by putting a hamster behind the wheel in a dangerous quarry in Spain. They installed a wheel on top of the steering wheel, and while a professional driver operated the pedals, they guided Charlie left or right using a simple carrot. The tiny rodent managed to steer the truck through tight curves and narrow roads, proving that Volvo's system is so light that even a 175-gram animal can control it. The smallest and fluffiest driver in history. Do you miss your partner so much that kissing the screen is no longer enough? In China, they invented the most romantic or the most disturbing solution ever. It's called Mua, a silicone lips device that connects to your phone to send and receive kisses from a distance. It's not just a piece of plastic, it has pressure sensors, sound feedback, and even heats up to mimic human temperature. If you press harder, your partner feels exactly the same thing on the other side of the world. The invention was born during the pandemic lockdowns, but it went so viral that there is now a kiss library, where you can download a stranger's kiss and try it on your device. The future of love is already here, and it tastes like silicone. Did you know that some of the most famous paintings in the world are made with ancient remains? For centuries, there was a pigment called mummy brown, which was made by grinding real Egyptian mummies. An incredible example is the famous French Revolution painting, Liberty Leading the People. Its author, Delacroix, loved this tone and used it in the shadows of the artwork, without knowing it contained millennia-old bones and resins. The scandal was so great that upon discovering the truth, painters like Burne-Jones were so horrified that they buried their paint tubes in the garden. The production stopped in 1964, not for ethical reasons, but because art stores literally ran out of supplies to grind. Can you imagine going to Christmas Mass and ending up reciting a 90s rap? In December 2016, St. Lucia's Cathedral in Sri Lanka made one of the most epic liturgical mistakes in history. During the prestigious Carol Festival, they handed out pamphlets so everyone could sing Ave Maria, but instead of the prayer to the Virgin, they printed the full lyrics of Hail Mary by Tupac Shakur.
Wait a minute, this sounds like rock and or roll.
Grandmothers and children ended up reading lines about revenge and gangs instead of religious psalms. It was all the fault of a volunteer who searched for the lyrics on Google and picked the first result without reading it. The church had to apologize for turning a heavenly choir into a gangsta rap concert. Amen for Tupac. In the small town of Egremont, England, the World Gurning Championship has been held since 1267. It all started as a medieval joke, when villagers bit into wild apples so sour that their pained grimaces made the whole town burst out laughing. The rule is bizarre. You have to stick your head through a horse collar and distort your face as much as possible. Professionals are often people without teeth, because it allows them to lift their jaw high enough to cover their nose with their lower lip. The king of them all is Tommy Mattinson, with 18 titles, who even showed off his monster face to the Queen, a place where being the ugliest makes you a legend. You think your internet is slow?
Janeway, lace the final brassiere. Oh, hurry up, I'm a busy man.
Imagine half of California losing signal, not because of a natural disaster or a terrorist attack, but because a bird decided a microwave antenna was its personal storage unit. In 2009, AT&T technicians couldn't understand why this high-tech link, which carried thousands of calls and data, was failing. When they opened the cover, they didn't find loose cables, but an avalanche of 136 kilos of acorns that nearly buried them alive. The culprit was the acorn woodpecker, a bird that weighs less than a sock, but spent 5 years using the antenna as a piggy bank. The poor bird found a hole and thought it was an infinite hiding spot, not realizing the space was massive. In the end, it accumulated 1,600 times its body weight in food, blocking the signal and nearly cooking the equipment due to moisture. Did you know that vaping sends an alert signal to your cells, causing them to become inflamed and potentially pave the way for cancer? That's what a study from the University of Rochester suggests. But if that scares you, wait until you hear about the worst job in the world, being a vape tester in China. In factories in Shenzhen, there are employees who test up to 10,000 vapes a day, using their own mouths. Why? Because no machine can tell if the strawberry flavor tastes good or if the coil tastes like burnt wire that requires a human palate. On social media, this caused total disgust, although factories claim they sterilize them afterward. The sad part is that the worker inhales the equivalent of 300 cigarettes a day just to make sure your vape tastes perfect. Imagine performing a perfect routine, but your score is nothing like what you expected. That's what Nadia Comaneci experienced at the 1976 Montreal Olympics at just 14 years old. Everything had gone flawlessly, no mistakes. But when she looked at the scoreboard, it showed A1. Nadia was completely confused, thinking something had gone wrong or that she had been judged terribly. The explanation for that score was quite absurd. The Omega electronic scoreboard was designed to display scores like 9.95 or 9.80, but it didn't have space for 10, because at the time it was assumed that no one would ever achieve a perfect 10. So when the judges gave the maximum score, the machine simply didn't know how to display 10. It wasn't programmed for that, and the closest it could do was show 1.00, as if it were missing a 0. In other words, it wasn't a 1. It was a 10 that didn't fit on the screen. What would you do to achieve your dream if no one wanted to support you? Mike Hughes, a 64-year-old limousine driver and stuntman, decided to take marketing to the extreme and a little beyond. His goal was to build a homemade rocket to reach space, but his wallet wasn't nearly as enthusiastic. In 2016, he organized a fundraiser that was a disaster, raising only $310. Then he made a move. As clever as it was controversial, he pretended to be a flat earther. He painted his rocket with the phrase "Research Flat Earth," and the plan worked. In a short time, he raised nearly $8,000 from people who hoped he would prove the world was a disc. Although his representative later admitted it was all just marketing, the risk was completely real. In February 2020, Mike launched his rocket in the California desert, but a parachute failed during liftoff and the rocket crashed, ending his life instantly. In Jurassic Park, the iconic scene where the velociraptors communicate in the kitchen while hunting the kids has a very unprehistoric origin. The sound designer, Gary Rydstrom, experimented with tiger roars and goose calls, but nothing sounded real enough. In the end, the perfect sound for the dinosaurs turned out to be turtles having sex. Yes, those strange rhythmic sounds you hear while the raptors stalk their prey are actually recordings of turtles in the act. So next time you watch that scene and get chills, remember you're actually listening to a very passionate turtle. During World War II, Hollywood swapped gold for plaster. Between 1943 and 1945, metal was so necessary for weapon production that the Academy awarded statuettes made of plaster painted with golden lacquer. Because they were so fragile, the Academy promised that after the war, winners could exchange their fake statues for the official gold versions. They kept their word and invited winners like Ingrid Bergman to make the swap, although it was voluntary. Some actors chose to keep their plaster Oscars as a historical reminder of the sacrifice the film industry made for the war effort. A prize that weighed more because of its story than its material.
Awesome performance, Homer. I smell Oscar. Oscar, take a shower or a tomato bath or something, please.
What would you be willing to do for a free tank of gas? In July 2019, a gas station in Samara, Russia launched a bizarre promotion: free fuel for anyone who showed up wearing a bikini and high heels. The owners expected to attract women, but they underestimated how much Russian drivers love saving money. Within minutes, the station was filled with bearded men wearing their wives' bikinis and heels to fill up without paying a single ruble. Photos of the drivers posing elegantly went viral all over the world. The success was so massive that the gas station had to cancel the offer after just 3 hours because they were running out of fuel. Proof that for free gas, pride comes last. On Route 67 in Hungary, there is a road that sings while you drive. Engineers carved special grooves into the asphalt that, through the vibration of the tires, play a famous rock song. This technology has 3 key functions. It acts as a speed control, since the music only sounds correct at exactly 80 kilometers per hour. It works as a safety alert, because the sound helps prevent drivers from falling asleep due to monotony, and it serves as a tourist attraction that pays tribute to the band Republic. How quickly do you believe in myths? In 2019, a Chinese farmer nicknamed Jiang took the legend of the 5-step snake a bit too seriously. The myth says that if it bites you, you can only walk that distance before dropping dead. Panicking after being bitten on the finger, Jiang didn't think twice. He grabbed an axe and amputated his own index finger right there to save his life. He ran to the hospital, taking way more than 5 steps, by the way, only to receive the worst news. The snake isn't that deadly, and a simple antidote would have been enough. The saddest part is that Jiang left his finger behind in the mountains, so doctors couldn't reattach it. How do you pay $5 million to your worst enemy?
Where's my money?
After losing a lawsuit against Apple for the illegal use of its software licenses, Samsung took advantage of an epic legal loophole. Since the contract didn't specify the payment method, they decided not to use a simple transfer. One morning in 2012, Apple's headquarters in California woke up blocked by 30 armored trucks filled with 5-cent coins. Samsung sent tons of loose change to force Apple employees to spend months counting coin by coin in front of the cameras. Since there were no restrictions in the contract, Apple had no choice but to accept the shipment, which came with a direct note. Here's your change.
Outrageous!
Do you think your pet is rude?
Hey there, little guy. How you doing?
Fuck off, Four Eyes.
US President Andrew Jackson had a parrot named Paul that was an expert in insults. The bird learned so many swear words from listening to its owner that during the president's funeral in 1845, Paul completely ruined the ceremony. It started shouting a barrage of insults so loud and non-stop that the attendees couldn't hear the prayers. In the end, guards had to forcibly remove the parrot from the church because it wouldn't stop cursing in front of the coffin.
Hello, Birdie. Polly want a cracker?
Polly wants your mama's sweet ass.
And this is your moment. Which one do you think is the fake? Write it in the comments. Don't be influenced by what others say, or you might get it wrong. If you enjoyed the series, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot. See you in the next video. Until next time, peace.